What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Venue RX podcast. My name is Jonathan, and on this show, we are passionate about documenting and sharing best practices around building, owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues. And today, we are going to be talking about a topic that I continue to mess up on. And the problem is, it's such an important topic, and it's such an important piece of business, and it's such an important piece of managing a team that you'd think by now, with over 60 employees that we have in our company, with the almost 900 team members that we used to manage back with our staffing company, across the 4 venues that we currently have, and the millions of dollars that we're doing in business a year, you'd think that I would get this right, and I don't. I've continued to mess it up. And so I literally just made this mistake. I'm in the process of unraveling and unpacking this, and I wanted to make this video in the context of that and explain to you guys what's going on, what I'm dealing with, and maybe how you can avoid some of the similar pitfalls and some of the stuff that I'm going through as you grow your businesses, as you grow your venue. And whether you are thinking about bringing on your first employee, or your second, third, your 50th employee, whatever that looks like for you and whatever size of business that you're in. And to be honest, this is applicable to a lot more than just venues as well. This is applicable to wineries, to tasting rooms, to so many different hospitality businesses, as well as pretty much anyone in the wedding and events business, because this is a relationship-based business. This is, the relationships that we have are so important in this business. And so that is where I think I struggled. And it's funny because I feel like I'm someone who does communicate quite a bit. I'm someone who prioritizes the relationships in his life. And it's at this juncture that I keep getting things wrong. So let me tell you a story. And this has happened a couple of times now, but I'm just gonna tell you the most recent story so you can kind of see where we are, what we're struggling with. We just brought on a tasting room as part of one of the venues that we manage. And as a part of that, we kind of got, I would say we inherited rather, an existing tasting room team. And as happens, some of those team members didn't work out. Through the change, they weren't aligned with our mission and our values and the type of company that we were. And so some of them quit and some of them we had to let go. And so as we then hired and brought in new people, we were able to bring in people that we were really excited about working with, and people that we felt like were gonna do a really good job. Everything's working perfectly. We hire a manager to manage these people. And so now at this point, I am several layers of management up. And this is always a danger zone, because for someone like me, and like many of you listening or watching right now, you like to be involved. You like to make sure that you're touching everything. You like to make sure that you're involved, that you know the choices that are being made, the decisions that are being made, because you know that the further away those decisions get from you, the harder it is to kind of reel it back in, the harder it is to control it. And oftentimes there's damage that happens, sometimes irreparable damage in an organization when incorrect decisions get made, or things don't get followed through with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So at this point now, we've hired a manager for this tasting room, and then I've hired a manager, an operations manager, and a business development manager, and then there's me. And whatever way you want to look at the pyramid and the hierarchy and the org chart and all that stuff, that is the layer. Those people may answer to me, and then the manager of the specific facility answers to them, and then the employees all of that place directly answer to the manager. And so what ended up happening was we needed to bring in a new manager, because that manager quit. She turned in her 2 weeks. She is incredible, was an incredible employee, and really grateful for all the work that she did, but she turned in her 2 weeks. And so we spent some time really making sure that we found the correct employee. And so we, all of the management team, we interviewed this new individual, and we're really excited about her. She's gonna do great. And so we were like, good. We've communicated there was going to be a change to the existing manager. We felt like we were doing all the right things. We created an onboarding document for her. We had a really pretty good, pretty regimented system for getting her on our team. And the one thing that I didn't do was I failed to make sure that the communication was done with the team to let them know that there was a new manager coming in the place of the existing manager. And what I didn't realize was the existing manager had not communicated to the rest of the team, to the bartenders and to the folks who were at that facility, that she was leaving and that there was someone else coming in to take her place. And so, this new manager comes in, and there was one day that she was supposed to train with a shift lead, and the shift lead knew she was gonna be there, but the shift lead had car trouble. And so this woman shows up and she says, "Hi everyone, here's, this is my name, and I'm so excited to be the new tasting room manager here. And everyone in the facility is like, what? Like, what do you mean? What about, I don't understand. Like, we haven't heard about this, but great. Like, so everyone kind of was nice. They were polite, but there was an edge. And the edge was they were all surprised. They were like, no one communicated to us this change. We had no idea this was coming. And now this girl is going to be our manager. And this isn't a facility like I know many of you operate where, we work closely together. The relationships mean everything. And so when an outsider comes in and then on top of that says, hey, I'm going to be managing you, it just leaves a really bad taste in everyone's mouth. Now, on top of that, this specific manager is incredibly knowledgeable. We feel so lucky to have her on our team. But when she comes in and she is knowledgeable and she's, knows people in the community and she's bringing people in, now all of a sudden, not just is she extremely competent, but when she was introduced to the team like this, it just really put a bad taste in everyone's mouth. And so I learned an incredible lesson that I really hope that I can share with you so that you don't make the same mistake. Number one lesson, when you are making a change, you need to communicate to everyone. You don't just need to communicate to the direct managers, because we did communicate to all people in the management, all layers of management. We communicated that there was going to be a change, but we didn't communicate with everyone who works with that manager. And as we saw, there was a lack of communication that created some distrust and created some initial animosity. And so I'm going to be talking about that, and then I'm going to be talking about a way that you can unpack that and unravel that. And that's what I'm currently going through. And I know that it's going to work. I know what I have to do to fix this situation, but it would have been a lot better if I would have done it right the first time. So again, make sure that you're communicating. I would say, in my experience so far, now having messed up in this way several times, we are going to communicate when someone is first quitting. We're going to have a whole process just making everyone aware, letting everyone know that we are looking for someone. And another breakdown in communication was some of the team members that were daily labor and daily work in the facility were not on our company Slack channels. And so there was a miscommunication. There was a gap in communication from some of these team members that, they had their own text groups that they were a part of, but they weren't involved in the overall company Slack channel. They didn't see that, this new individual came in and, was part of the team now. They had no idea about that. They just knew about their own specific facility. So that is error number one on our part, not doing a full-on, company-wide introduction to this new individual, saying this is her position, and even communicating that the outgoing manager was going to be leaving in a specific time frame. So that is really, really important. And that we overlooked, and so that's problem number one. Step number two about this is making sure that there is someone who is owning the onboarding process and making sure that that person is communicating to everyone involved. And so the specific gentleman that was involved in the process of getting her onboarded, he got a flat tire and he wasn't there. And he also hadn't communicated with any of the team. And I didn't check, I didn't provide accountability, and neither did any of the direct management right below me check to make sure that there had been any sort of communication at all. And so that was fail number two for us. We didn't make sure that there was one person specifically who's owning the whole entire training process, and then making sure, our management team, making sure that that one person who's in charge of the onboarding process had fully followed through with everyone involved, not just the decision makers, but even anyone who's going to be working with this individual at all. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have support from the people who you're working with, especially if you're managing them, if they don't, trust you, if they don't like you to a certain extent, if they don't have confidence in you to lead them, and if you don't come in the correct way, very quickly it can breed animosity, and especially in smaller businesses, that is animosity that absolutely cannot happen in a small team. And so that was fail number two, that we didn't have that one individual that was carrying through the onboarding all together. It was fragmented. The communication was fragmented. And then step number three that was the problem with this is when this individual came into the role and was very excited about the new role and was very excited about the opportunity to jump in, because there had been no communication, now the team didn't really give her the warm welcome that she wanted, I think she was hoping for, right? And so it really created a bad taste in her mouth. Now, of course, to me, the owner of the company, she didn't want to say, hey, I've got a bad taste in my mouth, and so she didn't say anything to me directly, because she, of course, wanted to just get in and say, hey, I'm going to do my job and I'm going to crush it and all that. And I think most people in her position would do that, right? And so you've got to think, as a leader, as a manager, as someone who's in your organization, people are not necessarily going to tell you what's going on in their head. And so I had to learn from someone else that this was the case, and then I had to jump in and get involved. And so that was step number 3. You have to understand, as a manager, as a leader in your organization, that people may not tell you what the real is going on. And it's not because, obviously you should try to make them feel comfortable with you and all of that. However, even if they do feel comfortable enough to give you feedback, if you don't directly poke at the problem and say, hey, what's going on here, and ask to dig deeper, a lot of times people just won't tell you because they don't want to be the one who's bringing the problem. So that's something that we're working on. I'm trying to give our team more permission. Hey, come to me. I want to be really approachable. I do make that effort, but oftentimes it's directly asking for that feedback. It's directly putting people on the spot and saying, hey, how was your onboarding experience so far? What did that look like? What did people say? Was there anything that you were surprised about? Was there anything that you weren't surprised about and you feel really confident on? These are questions that are more direct, that you can ask someone to make sure that they feel really comfortable as they're becoming a new employee and getting onboarded into your organization. All right, step number 2 of this whole thing is, what am I doing to unpack it? So now we're in this situation where we've got, 8 bartenders, something like that, who all work behind a tasting room bar, who all now are talking. I'm not listening to them, but they're all talking in their group chats and things like that about this new person that's coming in. They don't know what's going on. They didn't know the outgoing tasting room manager is leaving. And so they're in a bit of a turmoil and they're a little upset. And now also there are changes that are coming. We are doing some different things with the dress code than was in existence before. We're doing something a little bit different with the scheduling and how everyone does their schedule. And so these different changes are happening, and now we've got a group of people that have a low level of trust in their direct management because they don't really know who their direct manager is. They certainly don't have an awareness or a trust factor at all with the management level above that, and they don't really know where I fit in to this whole thing. And so the only way that you can solve this as a leader in this situation, and something that I have felt has served me very well in the past, is you have to take 100% ownership over this. You have to take so much ownership over it, even though I've got to be honest with you, I'm a bit frustrated. There's so many different things we're working on, and I love the marketing and I love the sales and I love all this stuff, but this operations piece, and especially our people, the people who make everything that we do possible, these are the most important people in our organization, and they're the most important people in your organization. And so as a leader, as a manager, I need to go and I need to completely own it. I need to say, hey guys, I am so sorry. In fact, I'm writing an email right now, and I'm saying, hey, I want to start off this email by apologizing. I didn't communicate correctly. Even though this is several layers of management and I'm kind of going through all of that, I have to set the tone and I have to set the pace for the rest of the management team to be able to own when communication gaps like this happen. So I'm starting off with an apology. I'm starting off saying, hey guys, I messed up. I didn't communicate correctly. I want a new start. I want a fresh start with you all. And some of you have met this new individual onto our team who just joined our team. She's really excited to be here. She's going to create incredible change in this organization. There's going to be growth that happens. It's going to feel a little uncomfortable at first, but hang in there with me. Like, we're all in this together. I've got to get on the same page, right? And so doing that, the only way to do that, especially when there's been a break in the communication, is to own it and to go right through it, not try to go around it, not try to blame shift, not try to say whose responsibility was that. I thought I told, none of that, right? You've got to get that out of your head, get that out of your vocabulary, have a mindset switch, realize you completely have responsibility over this, how the conversation went, how the communication went, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen correctly. So I'm going to own it, and I'm going to get in, and I'm going to say, hey guys, let's rewind. This didn't happen. I apologize. We're going to start again. This is what's happening. This is what happened 3 months ago. This is what happened 2 months ago. This is where we're at a month ago. This is why we made this decision. And this is where we are today. And the reason that I want your buy-in is, and then you have an opportunity to tell them all the incredible benefits that are coming and the different changes and how the changes are going to impact everyone positively. Because the truth is, there's a ton of change that's going to happen with this new employee in our organization that's going to create a lot of health, a lot of revenue generation for each one of the team members. And I know they're gonna be excited about it, but like a lot of change for a lot of people, it feels a little uncomfortable at first. And so I have to be that leader that says, guys, don't get discouraged about this. Don't feel upset. Don't feel uncertain. Know that this change is gonna feel a little weird at first just because it's new, but once we start adopting it, you're gonna see huge fruit, which is going to end up increasing your bottom line, your take-home pay. It's gonna increase the whole vibe of the facility. We're gonna do more business. Everyone is going to feel a lot more excited about where they work. You have to cast that vision, because if you don't cast that vision and the vision is fragmented and there's little bits and pieces of it, you're gonna have an organization that will completely tear itself apart. And so I wanna make this video because if you're going through an experience like this, if you're going through something like this as a manager, a boss, an owner of a company, if you've got 2 employees or if you've got 20 employees, communication, especially with the people where it matters the most, the people who are working day in, day out with management, you've got to communicate, you've got to make sure there's someone owning the onboarding experience, and then you have to make sure that the person who is entering this environment, stays really excited about the role and will give you that honest feedback, and you don't just accept hey, how's it going? It's going great. Okay, cool. You can't accept that answer. You've got to dive in a little bit deeper. And then finally, as a boss, as an owner, as a manager, even in an organization, you have to take extreme ownership. It will be uncommon. It will feel uncomfortable, but you have to take that extreme ownership, apologize for what went wrong so far, and then cast the vision for what the future is going to look like once everyone adopts this new process, this new person into your organization. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you can learn a little bit from my negative experience and something that's happened several times now. And now we are creating parameters and systems and frameworks around this so it doesn't happen. But I hope that this has been valuable for you. And I'm passionate about this stuff. I love this industry that we're in. I love people. And so if you feel like this is a message that would serve someone else, or a manager or boss or owner who you feel like would benefit from this message, I would love if you shared it with them. And as always, I really appreciate your time and attention. So we will see you in the next video. I've got an email to write, so I'm going to get to it. Bye.